This is Production Values, the Art of Amdram podcast, a show all about amateur dramatic and musical productions. In this series, we will follow amateur productions from the initial idea through to show week. We will include previews of upcoming shows, reviews of shows already open, and take you backstage to hear how it all comes together. Episode 10. A review of the SDS production of Hugh Whitmore's Breaking the Code. On Tuesday night, I was fortunate enough to see the latest production by SDS, the Sudbury Dramatic Society. It was so good that I felt compelled to feature a review here on the show and share my experience with you. Breaking the Code is the story of the life of Alan Turing, the father of computing, a mathematical genius who even in the years before the Second World War was conceiving of what he then called an electronic brain. He was convinced that one day computers, as he later named them, would be capable of learning, of being given a basic set of rules, chess for example, and they would be able to learn from losing and eventually be able to discard losing game plans and become proficient at chess without further human intervention. Turing went on to lead the code-breaking team at Bletchley Park, who by breaking the Nazi Enigma code machine changed the course of World War II. The play feels very relevant as here in the real world we debate and already interact with what can be considered artificial intelligence or learning machines. Self-awareness in the way Turing imagined it may still be a long way off, but the technology has reached a point where society is compelled to take seriously the potential consequences of true AI. A self-aware entity or soul, as Turing called it, in an artificial brain or machine. In the play, we travel backwards and forwards through Turing's life to see key events that guided his success and eventual tragic downfall. As someone who has spent their career around computer technology and communications, Alan Turing has always been one of my heroes, a description that I suspect he would have rejected, but he was probably one of the biggest contributors to defeating Nazi Germany that never wore a uniform or carried a gun. Because of the time-jumping nature of the play, I'm going to start my review with praise for the sets and lighting design. The set designer is not credited in the programme, but whoever you are, you created something that was both complex but wonderfully simple. I have stage managed 2 shows at the Key, and it is a small venue that is easy to love, but it has its drawbacks which this set had to overcome, and it did so wonderfully. There is little wing space at the Key, and none on stage left. The Key also lacks a fly tower, so scenery cannot be quickly changed or flown out. What compensates for the drawbacks is the excellent tech team at the Key of Joe Fawcett and Ryan Bogle, who cannot do enough to help make working there a pleasure. In my experience, this applies to everyone that I've encountered at the Key, backstage or front of house. Permanently on stage were all the sets that were required: Alan's home, his mother's home, Bletchley Park and a police interview room, with the forestage doubling later as a picnic spot. This simple idea allowed the scenes to change with simple blackouts, and the cast could easily move to the next area in a few seconds of the blackout. It worked brilliantly and overcame the normal issues of set changes that you can face at the Key, allowing the play to flow flawlessly. Directed skillfully by Neil Arbon, the play moved quickly backwards and forwards through the events of Alan's life, all of which led him to both success and tragedy, and all too soon the interval arrived, which to me is proof of an engaging performance. The audience headed to the bar chatting excitedly about the play and what was to come. When the metaphorical curtain fell, it felt that the end had come all too soon as well. We left the auditorium feeling moved and intrigued, a job extremely well done by SDS. The whole cast were excellent, so picking standout performances feels both hard and unfair. The youngest member of the cast, who only appeared briefly during a scene set during Alan's school days, is Nathaniel Lamb, as Alan's best school friend Christopher Markham. Nathaniel didn't get a curtain call as he dutifully put his real school demands above hanging around late at the theatre for his deserved recognition, but I'm told that Friday and Saturday audiences will get to see him take a bow. Another brief but notable performance was given by Matt Byam, playing Alan's Greek love interest Nikos. Not only did Matt not appear until the final few minutes of the play, but he also then performed his character entirely in Greek. His appearance was too brief, but he made a strong impression as Alan battled with his lack of Greek and Nikos his lack of English, but this made for a fun scene just as we headed towards the darker chapters of Turing's life. Sarah Harvey-Wade played Alan's mother with great conviction, conveying a sweet woman blissfully unaware of Alan's homosexuality, doting on the amazing wartime achievements of her son. Her final scenes and the closing scenes of the play gave her chance to really show her acting skills, as did the scene when Alan reveals that he is in trouble with the law after inadvertently telling a police officer that he was having a gay relationship. In this era, homosexuality was still illegal, and sadly this cruel law would not be revoked during Turing's lifetime. Sarah conveyed with great skill both anger at Alan's stupidity and then motherly love and support. At the heart of Turing's woes was the character of Ron Miller. Apparently the name of the real individual was changed for the play. He became sexually involved with Alan after a chance meeting in a pub, and it is left to the audience to decide if Miller's interest in Alan was purely financial. Played by Seb Ranson, Seb got to have fun playing this complex and seemingly devious young man who has a fiery reaction when accused by Alan of theft. Seb's character also gets the fruitiest language, so if you're offended by profanity, you better brace yourself for Miller's arrival on set. Seb gave a subtle and convincing performance as the unlikable Miller, in stark contrast to Seb's real-life affability. It made you want to shout at Alan to get rid of him, but this not being panto, you sit quietly fuming at the way Miller treats the gullible and trusting Turing. Clive Clark played police officer Mick Ross. His character came and went as we travelled backwards and forwards through time, and made the most of his part each time. He was very convincing as a police detective, borderline dodgy, and a stickler for duty. He had a great stage presence. Doing a lot with only small but recurring parts were Dean Marshall as John Smith, the man from the Ministry, and Holly Tunbridge, who I believe is new to SDS, who played Alan's unrequited love interest Pat Green. Dean managed to convey a character who seemed both suspicious but also benevolent in his attitude to Alan, and got one of the show's biggest laughs when telling Turing his real name. I also felt that Holly did a lot with her few appearances as Pat Green, Alan's love interest, conveying her character's love and admiration for this eccentric man. Great performances from both. Next, I should mention Nick Mason, who makes a few appearances as Alan Turing's boss and mentor at Bletchley, Dilwyn Knox. He gives great warmth and charm to the eccentric Knox, and I feel that the audience warmed quickly to his character because of Nick's charming performance. That brings me to Gray Searle playing Alan Turing himself. From Lights Up on Act 1, Gray captivated the audience with his subtle but utterly convincing performance as Turing, adding small and not overplayed stammers and lots of nervous picking at his nails. His portrayal of Alan Turing can be described as masterful and would not have been out of place on a West End stage, and that is not an exaggeration by any means. In fact, that applies to the whole play, worthy of a much longer run. Back to Gray, though, he perfectly captured the spirit of the genius of Turing, the type of genius that is often accompanied by a lack of self-awareness or empathy. It is this lack of awareness that ultimately leads to disaster for Alan, and Gray manages to portray him as a lonely and hurt man unaware that he has triggered his own downfall, and a character that you feel genuine sympathy for, and who in life you would do anything to help, as his family and friends do without success. An outstanding performance, and Gray is on stage for almost the entire show apart from the interval, delivering his lines faultlessly, at least faultlessly from an audience member's point of view. I didn't notice any hesitations that normally come with a forgotten line. In my opinion, this play is a must-watch, and this version of it delivers on every level. It is hard to believe the cruelty inflicted on this great man by a society that thought it had the right to tell people who to love and how to live their lives. As we all debate the merits or otherwise of artificial intelligence, and see the rise of politicians who also seem to believe that they should dictate who and how we love and how we should live our lives, this play has never been more relevant than it is today, and it discusses issues that we need to confront here in 2026. If you're listening to this before March the 7th, 2026, I highly recommend you buy a ticket. You will not be disappointed. And a final well done to SDS. It was a great night and a great show. Thank you for listening to Production Values. If you enjoyed it, please rate and share the show. This makes a big difference to how many people get to hear it. If you're involved in a production and would like it to feature on Production Values, please get in touch via email by dropping a message to info@stuarthanna.com. Details are also in the show notes.